I'm the CEO of DataTex, one of the founders and owners of the company. We consider ourselves to be leaders in ERP for the textile industry. We've dedicated our ERP to this industry. We don't work in other industry, and we cover everything from the fiber right through to the garment. So companies printing digitally can manage their business upstream, downstream, and the printing itself using our systems. We are located, headquartered in Milan in Italy. Product development is in Milan in Italy. We're installed and implemented in 45 countries. And we work out of 6 offices: India, Israel, USA, as I said, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, and Serbia. So we cover the textile world geographically and also the areas from, as I said, fiber to garment. Technology, functionality, we cover this industry. As I said, technology-wise, we've also invested quite recently, and today we provide a totally web-based solution that can be run either on-premise or on the cloud, which makes us quite unique also in the technology area.
And United Software is a software company based in Barcelona, in Spain. We have been developing software solutions for the digital textile printing market for the past 30 years. The company was founded in 1992. And we have RIP software, which is very dedicated to color management for textile applications. But we also develop other software solutions that cover different aspects, different points of our printing workflow. We have basically all our solutions are on-premise, real-time application, and it is going to be an interesting discussion because you guys are working on different kind of technology. And this year we were acquired by EFI, so now we belong to a much bigger group, and we are very focused on reshaping the future of the digital textile printing, especially in terms of color management and workflows.
On that cue that you've mentioned, you both have different kind of, solutions. Let's start with Ronnie. Like, what do you think? What's the advantage of a cloud-based system, and perhaps even some disadvantages?
I think everybody has heard today, and everybody speaks about software as a service, SaaS, or cloud-based solutions. I think the principle is not the commercial side. If you purchase the license or you buy an annual subscription, I think the main thing is to understand what's the difference of running, especially when we speak about ERP, which is a big system, running it on-premise on your own service, or running it on the cloud hosted by a third-party company. And as you know, today there's AWS, the Amazon, the IBMs, the Microsofts, everybody has their own cloud and offer these services. The big change, I think, has come due to 3 main factors, I'd say. One is computing power and the speed and the dynamic speed of the change of the technology. You buy something today, and we can see it all on our mobile phones or our laptops. You buy something today, in 2 years it's obsolete because it's too slow, and some of the software that you run doesn't actually fit anymore. So hardware upgrades is a very big expense that you can avoid using the cloud, because then somebody else does it. The other point is cybersecurity. Today, we all hear about a lot of issues with security, and the more you do on-premise, the more investment you have to do, and the more updated you have to be in order to resolve the security issues. Being on the cloud, somebody else does it for you, somebody who specializes in this type of industry. Most of our customers are in textiles, they don't specialize in IT. And the last point I'd say is big data. Today, everybody speaks about big data, but if you want to move into the next stage of computing, meaning AI or artificial intelligence, being able to use the amount of data that we produce in order to make, let's say, decisions, and we'll speak about that later, you need a lot of data, space, a lot of data, and you need space to store it. Technology of storing also changes. So when you're on the cloud, you actually buy what you need, and you can change the volumes without any further investment. You just pay a bigger rent, but you don't need to buy or change disks or change platforms for that. So I think the current technology and the trends of the speed of the change of trends brings us towards the cloud. And we as a company, I can tell you, last year, we sold, let's say, X dollars in licenses, in cloud or subscription models. This year, it's 5X. So it's a huge revolution that all our customers today, or new customers, are looking for cloud solutions rather than hosting it on their own, because everybody feels the pain of having your own servers and having to upgrade or change or upgrade the software or the the database software in order to cope with the new developments and new cyber reality.
Luca, I understand, because yours is a on-premise manufacturing facility-based RIP solution. So what's your take on this? Like, why is it important to have RIP solutions on-premise?
I think fundamentally, we in Inedi we have different solutions compared to the ERP software. I totally agree with what Ronnie just said. I would also add on top of his comments that if you are a software developer, it's much easier to maintain and update your software if it's installed on the cloud instead of physically connect to the client server and makes the changes there. We have a RIP software which is directly installed in the computer that is usually sitting next to the printer. Because historically, this is what we always did. I mean, the computer is close to the printer. Our customers need to process most of the times very big files. So the direct connection between the RIP and the machine allows to RIP and process the files much faster than if you need to rely on an internet connection, to put it very easily. Especially in countries where the internet connection and the facilities are not that advanced. I'm thinking about, I have a lot of customers in India, Pakistan, China as well. Especially in the production facility, the internet is not that available like we are used to, maybe. So the fact that the RIP is connected to the printer allows faster printing outputs for sure, and overall, I would say better stability, because stability is very important for the final user. Of course, they want to, buy the RIP, put it inside the machine, and print for the next 5 years, which is great for the customer. Oh, I think I touched something. Okay. It's great for the customer, less good for the software provider, because then it's difficult to update the license because they are so stable and they can print a lot. And but beside the RIP software, we also have another software that is called Neo Catalog, which is a software where the client can store all the designs, share with customers and colleagues all over the world, create layout, printing layout on the fly. And also this software today is based on the customer server, but we are studying new ways to bring this software into the cloud, basically for all the reasons that Ronnie just mentioned.
So just because you mentioned a couple of countries there where you have customers like India, Pakistan, China, and I understand textile manufacturing is a key in those areas. So Ronnie, in your 5X, the increment that you're seeing in your cloud-based adoption, are you seeing these countries as emerging countries?
Yes. No, we see, it's an interesting fact. I think the two countries, I don't want to hurt anybody but I think in Pakistan and Bangladesh, people are reluctant to go cloud, especially because of the control of the government of the internet, and cases where internet is actually shut down or slowed down by the government. Just to add to what was said here, I think when we speak about mission critical systems where high availability is needed, we also, when we go to the shop floor, we have small systems that don't really collect a lot of data, but help the organization work online on the system, even when the ERP is down.
Okay.
Accumulating data and then sending it up to the ERP. So we download the necessary production data for the next few days and get it back when the system is back up. But high availability is very important. And I think if we speak about real-time systems, they have to be available. So I don't think there's an option there. But when these systems start producing data that the organization can then apply all the AI, machine learning, etc., that data can be stored on the cloud using systems like ours to then manipulate it and come up with conclusion, insights about what can be done and what can be learned from the results and the conditions that we produced in the last days, months, and so forth.
Okay. And just coming back to what you were saying earlier, Luca, around the new development that you're doing, which is cloud-based, and there is on-premise as well. So do you think the way forward is hybrid, where you could have, for the public domain, things are available on cloud, and when it comes back to the manufacturing facility, things can be on-premise? Is that the way forward you're seeing in RIP solutions?
Yeah.
Okay.
To put it very easily, I believe that the printing part will be on-premise real time for the time being, but all the pre and post phases of digital printing workflow can definitely and probably must be on cloud, like the integration between the ERP. Not that you mentioned that you also send some printing jobs from your platform to the printer.
Scheduling, yes.
Yeah, so the integration, I believe, is very important, and the cooperation between software companies that at the end of the day have different solutions is very important.
I think also to add, one of the requirements of the cloud, or let's say reality that leads towards the cloud, is the globalization. We have today customers, for example, headquartered in Indonesia, but they work in 5-6 countries. So that is, the cloud enables the sharing of data, sharing of the same system on a much easier way than being connected to one on-site server or to managing multiple servers. The challenge there still exists because some countries, for example, European countries, do not allow data to be stored in any servers in Asia Pacific, for example. So we have customers that have faced this, and because of this challenge, we had to install actually two cloud providers, one in Asia Pacific and one in Europe, in order to cope with those regulations. But I think these things will be resolved in the next few years because the world is going towards cloud computing.
Just because you've mentioned regulation here and data, so data security or cybersecurity is a key concern when it's a cloud-based solution. So what's your take on that? Like, do you think regulations are coming into place which will enable?
I think it's a matter of perception, because today the way we see it, or we're beginning to see it, let's put it this way, because the perception is there, is that data on the cloud is more secure than data on your own server. Because today, every on-premise server is connected in some way or manner to the internet. But the protection a textile organization can provide or can install is far from being as sufficient or as sophisticated or as updated as the one that the cloud provider, who's specialized only in that, will do. So actually today, perception is still, it's out there on the cloud. I don't have control. Somebody may steal it. But on the other hand, from what we see, the security measures applied by the cloud suppliers are far greater than the ones our customers can even afford to manage.
Luca, do you have a comment on that?
I also have the same feeling that a lot of textile manufacturing facilities, textile companies, they still have these ideas that the biggest asset they have is their own designs. So they have thousands of designs. And there is still this feeling that the designs are more protected if they are inside my own server, if I manage my own server, instead of having in the cloud. This is why our catalog solution is based on the company server. What I suggest to customers is you can do that, but at the same time, you can have, for example, a backup on the cloud somewhere else outside your company, because if anything happened to your hardware, then you don't lose your data. So yeah.
Just another comment on that. Yesterday we talked about localization and nearshoring and these kind of concepts, where I think on-premise might work, but for the industry to go forward, I think cloud is the way forward. As a RIP solution provider, do you think that's where you have to go?
Well, I still think that a hybrid concept is probably something we will look at for the next years. even though I agree with Ronnie that the cloud technology and security also is getting better and better. But at the same time, I believe also the hardware will still be there outside, and I believe in a hybrid solution maybe.
I think some areas like real-time machine controls will have to remain on site. I mean, I wouldn't like to fly on a plane where I know the software is off the cloud and not on the plane itself. So I think there's a lot of areas where we still need the software and the data to be resident right next to the machine.
We had this discussion around inks as well, and then yesterday around the energy consumption during the sustainability panel discussion. Do you think software play a role? Like, how can the right software either reduce energy consumption or, even help manufacturers understand the cost base in the manufacturing process?
Okay, I think you gave the answer in your question. I think knowing is the first thing. So being able to calculate the water consumption for every recipe, for every run, because the run length also has a huge effect on the water consumption. The CO emissions, the consumption of energy, all these, the first step towards resolving or towards optimizing is knowing. That means if the company knows the amounts and the costs involved, that's the first step. Second step is to use the software, and this is where we speak about management software, and this is where we speak about textile-specific software, is to be able to calculate optimized routings, optimized schedules, optimized changes, to minimize product changes and setup changes in order to avoid or to save on consumption of energy, water, etc. But the first thing is knowing. And we find that most customers don't know the amount of waters and how much water would they consume if they run a batch X or a batch Y, how much water will they consume if the sequence of batches is A or B. This is the first step towards resolving it. And then you need the software to be able to optimize and to give you the best or the optimized consumptions and emissions.
Luca, do you have a comment on that one?
Yeah, yesterday we talked a lot about pigments. We will talk a lot about pigments later, I'm sure about it. Somebody yesterday made a comment which I very liked. The comment was something like, we are all talking and pointing at the pigments. What about, not opening our mind to other solutions? Somebody mentioned the possibility to have reactive inks, which will dry faster and can save energy. What I didn't hear yesterday is we didn't really talk about color management, because my understanding, from the software and color management perspective, I believe that if you have a printer and you're printing with pigments, which is a great technology, but we all know the challenges of the pigment printing today, the intensity, above other things. You really need to be able to color manage the inks and the fabrics and the print heads itself in order to deliver to your customers the color that they are buying at the end of the day. So if you make a wrong calibration and you're printing with pigment and on the screen you see green, and then you print yellow, then you have a big problem. You're saving inks, you're saving energy, but you're not printing the colors that your customer is asking. Therefore, I believe that especially a good RIP software that has enough tool to create a precise color management workflow can help to print less samples, because what you see on the screen is what you're going to print. So less samples, less tryout, and it makes a huge impact on energy saving, ink saving, water saving as well. And then just to comment on what Ronnie said, my internal fight in my company is that this is all very good, but we need numbers. We need to see.
I was about to ask you, do you have any numbers to validate?
This is my internal battle inside Inedit, because these are all very nice concepts, and it's true. It's true that with pigment we are saving energy, inks, and with the RIP software as well. But what we're still missing, at least from my understanding and my knowledge, is really how much, because otherwise, I think it was Paolo from Epson yesterday said that otherwise it's only a marketing concept. No, that's easy. Then we need to make a step farther in that direction.
Sure. Question for Ronnie, because with the specialized ERP side of the industry, why do you think textile manufacturers need, like each manufacturer needs a specialized ERP solution, and ERP is not a plug and play that it's available and anybody can plug in and start with it?
I think this industry, not I think, we know, we've been around for 35 years. This industry is very different. The bill of material is different, the coding is different. Every company has their own way of management, recipes. You have batch recipes, you have continuous recipes, you have weaving patterns, you have knitting designs, the print designs, there's a lot. Now, if you had to do everything on a general purpose software, it means you'll have to calculate it manually and feed the ERP. On our system, we basically store all the data at the way they are on the production floor. And we use the same data for costing and for planning that we use for the actual production. And that gives us a huge advantage, or gives our customers a huge advantage, because it also, one of the presentations before, they spoke about sustainability. It was a chemical producer, but they spoke about 3 points. The first point was time to market, shorter lead times. The second point was make to order. And the third point was optimize the chemistry. So the first 2 points, you need a very dedicated system to be able to shorten the lead times, to be able to come faster to the market, meaning we have to hold less stock. That means we create less waste. If we plan accurately, it means we'll create less obsolete materials along the way, because we find customers that when they install a good calculation system, for example, for yarn-dyed fabrics, they saved 30% on obsolete yarn, which wasn't recorded, because people record when you caught short. But when you overproduce the yarn and you overload your yarn warehouse, nobody really knows. They know at the end of the year, you've got obsolete stock, but nobody knows why. So accurate systems can reduce the wastage. And then, as we heard before, all the, let's say, the damage that the textile industry can create towards the environment.
Just like talking about like how specialized ERP is required, do you think like in terms of like, do manufacturers get any advantage, productivity benefit from having that on-premise RIP, like when you compare it to any other cloud-based solution?
Well, it's basically when we talk about the RIP software, if I'm not wrong, maybe I am, but the 95% of the RIP solutions are on-premise. There is, if I'm not wrong, one company that is working on the cloud, but more in terms of profiles sharing and backup of printed data, those kind of things. But when it comes to the actual printing, it's on-premise. There are different types of connection with the machine. We can have a direct connection to the print heads, which is very fast. With other printers, we work through a file. So the RIP output a printing job, which is then handled into the machine control software. Some other manufacturers are working through USB. So it's actually the manufacturer that is telling us how to connect with the printer. But the advantages are given by the tools that you have inside the RIP software, and that allow the printer to print good colors at the end of the day.
Okay. And have the trends like on-demand manufacturing impacted the implementation? And do you think the way customers are adopting, whether on-demand or on-premise, that can give us a trend, like where the industry is going? Are you seeing that kind of a thing?
I don't really.
Okay, so it's like we as more and more customers, like your manufacturers, are adopting cloud-based solutions.
Okay.
Do you think that's more because on-demand manufacturing is coming up, or and they have to work around those requirements? Or do you think like can the industry us as an information provider, if we look at software adoption rate, can we derive a trend based on, yes, more people are
No,
going cloud, it's because on demand is increasing?
No, I would put it this way, not because on demand is increasing, but because I think the variety of products, the number of products and the size of the runs has changed a lot. So for the same revenue today, instead of producing 100 products, I need to produce 10,000 products. It's along that way. And we hear it, we used to hear it in the USA and in Europe. Today we hear it in India and Pakistan, Indonesia, everywhere. That means the world is going into much shorter runs with a lot of variety. And as opposed to the sustainability, fast fashion causes a lot, but that may change, we don't know. But on-demand production does exist, and that needs more computing power. More computing power, you fall into the categories of what I said before, of security, of database, of let's say, of hardware to run the system. And in order to keep it up to date, people will go to the cloud. It's going to become it's going to become very difficult, I think, to maintain an on-premise system for a manufacturing company. There's banks, insurance companies may continue. But if you go into a manufacturing company, the investment they'll need for the on-site or on-premise support of the systems will not be feasible. I think people will go to the cloud also for that, because to receive the same security, the same service, the same upgradability that they'll have on the cloud, they'll need to invest, I think, an amount which is unreasonable for a manufacturing unit.
Sure.
And the trend that I see here is that simply now companies want more. What I mean by more is that you cannot overlook pieces of the workflow that maybe were overlooked before. We have always been doing solutions, again, for color management and printing, but we also have solutions for designing and design sharing, which are becoming more and more important. Like companies now really want to manage the complete workflow from the first yarn to printing the product, to the 3D visualization, why not, and then to the final delivery to the customer through e-commerce. They really want the complete workflow. This is why we see more and more software companies coming up, and this is why it's very important for us as a RIP provider to stay in touch with everybody and to see what's around there. So the trend that I see here is it's becoming more and more important to address all the parts of the digital printing workflow, and at the end of the day, this is what microfactories want. Also, we are talking about all about reshoring and nearshoring yesterday. In order to have success in those kinds of projects, you really need to control the complete workflow. It's not only the printing operator in front of the printer who is, is not really a play button, but anyway, print the fabric and sell it to the customer that is there outside the corner. So yeah, the big workflows is what we are going to see in the future.
Sure. Any other comments or any questions from the audience at this stage? Steve will give you the mic.
My question's to you, Luke. I was just wondering if you could touch upon the sort of the merger with the FI Reggianimo and how that might transform your business strategy or your solutions even further going forward.
Mm-hmm. Historically, Inedit has always been working with all the machines manufacturers because this is the only way we have to create a RIP software that is really used by everybody. This is not going to change. Our business model is not going to change in the near future. This is what we are going to do for the next years. Now we have the possibility, going back to the workflow and the possibility for the future. We have the more resources and also more know-how to build workflows that are much bigger, better, and address it to what the customers want than in the future. Because now we belong to a group that has its own software, its own also printing technology. So it's a cooperation that is looking toward the future. The business model doesn't really change today, if this is the question that you were asking.
Thanks, Joe. I've just got a question from a virtual attendee because we talked about cybersecurity during the discussion. Do we have any idea how much cybersecurity is costing the textile industry? Like, do we have any instances or any numbers with us?
No, I don't think there's any, in my opinion, well, I haven't heard any numbers of that.
Me neither.
Because cybersecurity can be measured in two ways. One is the cost of protection, and the other one is the cost of intrusion.
Yeah.
And we've had customers that have had ransom attacks and like everywhere else, and then there's a cost involved. But I've not seen numbers, so I can't really say what are the numbers.
Well, I can talk from our solution. For example, we use an encrypted information in our catalog. So the company needs to have an SSL certificate, which has a cost. Hardware has a cost, like Ronnie was saying before. You need to have an IT guy inside the company who understands what's going on, can update the SSL certificate. It can be costly, of course. Well, I don't have much more to add on top of what you were saying. It's a complicated question. Just to give a number, it's depending on the type of the installation. Also, cloud can be very expensive as well. If you need to store a lot of data designs on the cloud, then the cost really depend on what you are storing on the cloud. So,
and it's true, the more security you require, or the more disaster recovery functionality you require from the cloud provider, the prices go up.
Mm-hmm.
But having it on premise for long run will be more expensive.
Last chance for any questions from the audience. No? Okay. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Luca. It was a very interesting
thank you.
discussion.